Hey guys, Ben with Empower Gaming Computers here at the Empower Gaming Computer Studio. I am currently working on this. This is a PC that was brought to me by a customer locally here, who was complaining about the speed of which it takes to boot up and launch any application there is, which upon discovery, when I first booted up, put it on the bench when they dropped it off, we found out that it was actually set up on yes, my bench is extremely messy right now, I'm sorry. I have lots of extra cables, parts, and things. This happens when I do too many builds, and I don't clean up after the build. So that will be cleaned up soon, I apologize. Anyway, PC was running super slow at startup, super slow to launch games. He's mostly just a escape from Tarkov player, and I witnessed it as soon as I plugged it, put it on the bench, plugged it in, fired it up. It took like 5 minutes just to boot into Windows. My first assumption when I took the back panel off is, well, there's a hard drive in play down here, which, by the way, this cable management is absolutely atrocious, and we're going to fix that for him as well. But if you look, there's a hard drive down there. There's a SATA SSD somewhere in the mix, somewhere in here. Oh, there it is right there, with the mounting brackets just not mounted properly. Then there's also an M.2 SSD that I'm aware of as well. So there's 3 storage devices in here. And what actually ended up happening with this is they originally installed Windows on the hard drive, I think by mistake. Because there's actually a third SSD, a second. There's 3 SSDs and 1 hard drive. One's a 512 SSD, the second is a 1 terabyte Samsung 980 SATA SSD, and then I think the last one, or I'm sorry, 980, I think it's M.2, and then the last one is a 2 terabyte M.2 SSD that he added later. And then he has the Western Digital 1 terabyte hard drive, keyword. OS was actually installed on the hard drive. That was the main problem. Outside of that, I want to talk about some additional problems that I found on the build. The RGB for this cooler was actually synchronized to this button controller here. So the Lee cables specifically for this cooler were missing to synchronize it to the motherboard so that you can control the RGB. Additionally, he has 3 different types of fans in here. So he has NZXT fans, which are cool. He has Lee fans, which are the SLs on this Galahad cooler. And then he has these front fans, which I believe are also Lee, just synchronized to the motherboard. And then he's also got RGB, Corsair RGB RAM, and then he's also got Gigabyte RGB on his graphics card. Now, this wasn't a complaint, but I'm always going above and beyond because, you know, it's me. It's me, guys. It's me. Anyway, so I couldn't help myself but to figure out all this RGB stuff, and, you know, here's an example. We have IQ, we have RGB Fusion, we have NZXT Cam, and there's also, not open right now, but we also have the MSI Center for the RGB on the motherboard. Synchronized RGB. So he's got like 4 different softwares to control his RGB, which is absolutely obnoxious and annoying. When I'm doing a build, I don't do that. Everything is on one platform, unless it's specifically requested by the customer that I want Corsair RAM with Lee fans and a Gigabyte graphics card, etc., etc., etc. So, and an MSI motherboard. But that's the thing I wanted to talk about is, if you're putting a build together, make it make sense. Don't do 18 different RGB things because it's cool. I don't like the look of it. I don't like the NZXT fans just thrown in there. We could have gone with a 360 millimeter at the top instead of the 240, and you're really only saving like 20 bucks by doing that. And I think this was an i5, so it's not like it needed the 360, but the aesthetic. So I mean, look at that. It just kind of looks creepy, weird. But the front of the case, this NZXT flow case is really nice. I like it a lot. But going back to this, we're going to clean that up. I'll show you guys in an after video, just kind of give you an update. But right now we've got Windows Reloaded on the 2 terabyte SSD because, well, that's the only thing we could do. Hey, we could have put it on the 1 terabyte, but I wanted to put it on the newest SSD, so it's going to last the longest. You can use the rest of it as storage. And then, yeah, the system should be running very nicely, which it is. And we will have this back to him today. So it's only been in here since last night. So, cool. Good job, guys. Alright guys, so here's the deal. I also found some additional things that were wrong with the system. We're back at the NZXT build that's in here for repairs. Let's look at this. So there's one screw here holding the graphics card in, and this graphics card is actually super loose. I can move it around. I'm not going to do it because it's turned on right now. But like, all I was doing was switching out the pigtail to the proper end, just so it looks a little nicer, and then I'll zip tie this up. And the other thing is the cable isn't actually routed in the right spot. You could actually route it in the actual PCIe slot here, or PCIe cable slot right there, and it'll look a little cleaner. So I'm going to do that. Also, working on cleaning up the cable management here. I'm going to have to unplug some things. And the other thing is I'm going to rotate the AIO, I think, possibly. I'm going to double check that because it might be because of a clearance issue. That's why you might have put it in like that. But the other thing I'm going to do is get the hoses on the bottom of the block, not on the top, just because it looks nicer. Because when you're looking at your PC, you're looking at a bunch of hoses. Kind of dumb. So let's rotate that to the right direction, at least. Hoses to the back, not that big of a deal. It just looks a little bit more proper to the front. Most PCs, that's standard. But outside of that, just a little bit more cable management. We're making progress on that slowly, but surely. We are cleaning that up. Large rat nest down there I still have to do. Okay, guys. Yeah, back to it. Thanks. And one more thing to add to the NZXT build that we're working on. Customer was here dropping it off saying he had slow problem. Anyway, one other thing to add to all the list of things that I found wrong with this build is the USB 3.0 for the front panel was not plugged in. So, another thing we're going to fix. Cool. And once again, one other thing to add to the list. USB-C. While I was looking, I was like, oh, there's a USB-C here. And there's a USB-C port there. But once again, the previous person that built this did not plug in the front panel USB-C. So another thing that we will fix. Cool. And well guys, the saga with the NZXT build continues. While flipping the computer around and doing the cable management, which I had to undo and redo twice now, because there's just cables twisted and all sorts of crazy shit down here. Anyway, look at this. The hard drive is just completely loose, not secure at all. Cool. Another thing that's going to be fixed.